Alright, so today I want to do something that I've actually never done before. I actually want to go into my Ball Python egg incubator, pull out some of those eggs that have been incubating for a while and candle them, shine a light on the egg and look inside and see if we can see any kind of development in the egg, which would be pretty awesome. And pretty much the only time that I've candled Ball Python eggs is right after the snake lays the eggs, and pretty much the purpose of candling is to figure out where the embryo is, to get the embryo positioned on the top of the egg for the incubation period. They say you actually have a higher hatch rate if you position the embryo on top of the egg. So it'll be kind of interesting going in to see if all the eggs are developing. As a matter of fact, I actually had one of my snakes laid a bunch of eggs last year. It was my pied female, the first time that she laid eggs, which was kind of frustrating. She actually laid a whole clutch of eggs that looked really good, and when I candled those eggs, to my surprise, I actually didn't see any embryos or any veins in any of the eggs. They looked like they were fertile eggs, but they were all complete duds. And I actually put them in the incubator, incubated them for about a month, and none of them developed. I actually went in with a flashlight about a month after I was incubating, and all those eggs were clear. You could see no development inside of those eggs. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if we can see some development, and even if we could see like a little baby snake developing in the egg. I don't know if you can actually see it at this point. I'd say a lot of times I've actually went into the incubator once and I looked at some older eggs, and sometimes the leathery shell can get really thick where it's really hard to look inside of the eggs. But I actually have quite a variety of eggs. I actually have an egg that was laid yesterday, some that were laid like a week ago, and some that were laid about 3 weeks ago. So it'll be kind of interesting to just kind of go through the eggs and see if there's any development, and if they're all completely fertile and developing, and see if we have any dud eggs. So let's jump over to the incubator. I'm going to pull those eggs out and let's candle some Ball Python eggs. Alright, so I'm going to start with this box of eggs. This egg was actually laid yesterday. It was the weirdest thing. I had a really big female lay just one egg, and she still hasn't laid any more eggs, which is kind of weird. This one looks like, as a matter of fact, it looks like it's slightly discolored over here, which is kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this one completely develops, because I'm thinking maybe that girl could have been egg bound, which would be a real bummer. And this one is actually kind of has a little bit of a smell to it, which is kind of a bummer too. So take a look at this. This one is definitely, you can definitely see there's some development in there. There's actually an embryo and some veins in the middle of that egg. So it looks like it might be doing pretty good on this egg, even though it's slightly discolored. I've actually seen some eggs that are slightly discolored. Sometimes they can really be where they look really bad, but a lot of times they'll still hatch. So you definitely don't want to give up on an egg, especially if you see veins in an egg like that one. Alright, so I have another box here. These were laid 8 days ago, so we should see some development. I'm thinking maybe they won't be so thick that we can't see in them. It'll be kind of interesting to see how these are doing. These are all doing fantastic. A really big clutch of 11 eggs, which is pretty crazy. So I'm going to get out my pen light here, and let's candle these eggs and take a look at them and see what we can see inside of the eggs. I've never actually done this, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how they're developing. And take a look at that. You can definitely see some development in the middle of the egg there. Definitely see a lot of development in that one, a lot of veins. It seems like the embryo almost completely disappeared, and now it's just like a network of veins in these, which is pretty wild, which is looking good so far. You can definitely tell picking up these eggs that they're a lot more leathery, almost like a crinkly, almost like a leather that you kind of got wet and then dried out. That's kind of what it reminds me of. You can definitely see some good veins in that one right there. Let's take a look at this one here. Definitely can see some vein development in this one. Looking good, looking good. You know, it would be really neat if you could figure out if you have twins in there. I've never had an egg with twins, and it'd be kind of interesting to see if you could see it before it actually hatches. I don't know, it looks like at this point, 8 days, it looks like just one big network of veins in these eggs so far. I have another clutch, the one right after this. It's 2 days older than this one, so we can actually compare this one 8 days to a 10-day-old clutch, which would be pretty interesting to see what 2 days does to these. It's so far, you can actually see inside the egg, and it just looks like a bunch of veins coming through the egg, which is pretty wild. You can definitely still see inside the eggs. And at this point, you really don't want to move them too much. You definitely don't want to break any of those veins inside of the egg. I think most people, they just kind of let them and never really pick them up. So take a look at that one. You can definitely see quite a few veins on that one. And then this one, looking good. All right, so that is 8 days, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that they're all away from the sides of the box so we don't have any water dripping down on the eggs on these. All right, so let's pull out the next clutch of eggs. All right, so these were laid 10 days ago, and I have to admit I was kind of surprised on the 8-day-old eggs that you could actually still see inside of them and see the veins really clear, which really surprised me. So this is a clutch of 8 eggs from 10 days ago. So let's take a look at these. It'll be pretty interesting to see if we can see any veins or even a little bit more development in these. So take a look at this. It is pretty much the same. Not much difference between 8 days and 10 days. And then I have one more clutch we can actually pull out. Maybe you can see just a little bit right in there. Just a little bit moving around, maybe like the embryo's kind of developing a little bit in there with the veins. You can see a little bit more development. I think that is where the snake is. You can see it moving around just a little bit right there. And that's what's going to develop into the baby ball python hatchling. This one, you can see a little bit more development. Quite a few veins. They're all looking really good, looking like they're all developing. Ooh, look at that. That could be twins. Look at that. One there and one there. Possibly twins on that one. I might actually mark that one, and maybe we can actually take a chance, and maybe that one could be twins on that one, which would be pretty wild. And some of these, you really can't see much of anything other than just veins in them. Let's take a look at this last one here. Pretty much all veins in this one. So I'm thinking this one might be twins. I'm gonna I'll get a little Sharpie and I'm gonna mark on there possibly twins. Maybe I'll just put a T on it to see if that one actually makes some twins, which would be pretty awesome. All right, so I got my Sharpie. I'm just gonna put a little T. Maybe I'll put a bigger T. So you can actually tell the difference. Big T for twins. I'm convinced that one might be twins. We'll have to see when it hatches. All right, so here's my last box of eggs that I currently have in the incubator. I still have some more females that are gonna lay too, so I should have more than this eventually for the season. This one was laid 23 days ago, so that's quite a bit longer than the last one. We should see quite a bit more development in these eggs, which should be kind of interesting. I've never actually looked at this. This is gonna be quite interesting to see what they look like after 23 days. And take a look at that. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can see much of anything, a little bit of veins, a little bit darker as far as maybe, I don't know if you can really see anything maybe on the bottom over here. But I would think that the hatchling would actually develop right on the top, right by the embryo, but I'm not really seeing anything except for some veins on these, which is not quite what I expected. And the fact that you can actually see some veins in these too is pretty awesome. You can see quite a few veins. It's definitely a lot darker. Maybe you can see a little bit more in there. But I know once you get pretty much past this, it seems like the leathery shells get tougher and tougher to actually see through, and you get to the point where you really can't see much through the egg at all. This kind of makes me pretty nervous. I'm like, I don't want to drop one of these. Definitely don't want to drop your snake eggs at this point. But look at how much development you have in there. I'm surprised you actually can't see any kind of any kind of like a little snake developing in there. Unless we're just not seeing it. Maybe it's like along the bottom or something. I don't really want to move them out of their orientation too much. Look at how dark that one is. Super dark. You almost can't even see inside of that one. Yeah, all these are like really super dark. As far as, I don't know if you can see it as good as I can see it out here on the camera. Maybe I can adjust the camera exposure afterwards in my edit, when I edit the film, but it's, you can see a little bit of veins. This one you can't see anything at all. It's almost like a potato. It's completely solid. So that's pretty much the limit right there as far as how, you know, how far you can go into the incubation and still see something. So it looks like, you know, after about 10 days you can still see inside. Maybe you can get an idea if you actually have twins in there or not. So that's pretty exciting. I've never actually done that before, and I've never seen anyone do that on a YouTube video either. So it's kind of interesting to do. I'm always looking for things to do that no one else has ever done to try to add to the kind of the knowledge base of ball pythons on YouTube, which is pretty interesting. So that's pretty much it. I thought I'd just kind of randomly do this, just kind of off the top of my head. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.